Okay, today we're learning lesson 2.1, integers and absolute value. Probably a lot of what you'll see today is stuff that you've had in the past, just so there'll just be some refresher. We may take a little new twist to a few things and learn something new along the way if we're not careful. You probably already knew that a negative number is a number less than 0. Yeah?
Yes, I know.
And you probably already knew that a positive number is a number greater than 0.
Yes.
All right, so what is 0 then? Is it negative or positive?
What?
Wow.
Neither,
because it's not a number.
0 is neither. It is a number. 0 is a number. It's a whole number, but it is neither negative nor positive because it doesn't fit the definition for either one of them. It's not less than 0 or greater than 0. So that, by the way, think about that a little bit. There's something special about 0, and that might come back to haunt you on one of the questions today in your assignment. So this is just a little visual way of thinking about it. Negative numbers, the trickiest thing probably that we'll do today involves some inequalities and doing things on some number lines. In using negative numbers, you always have to remember to think from right to left instead of left to right on the number line, okay? And positive numbers don't give anybody any trouble because we're used to using those all day, but those negative numbers sometimes come back and bite us a little bit. So be careful with those when we get to some of these things we'll be doing. So we're going to work with integers this time. Here's just an opportunity for you to write down a couple of integers for me. Write the numbers, the integers that make these, that go with these statements. When you have them both written down, show me your whiteboards. Good, thank you for those who are labeling those. I appreciate that. Always label your answers if you're given the opportunity. Good. All right. Good. I'm not sure about that second one there, Joy. This, of course, would be negative 12 degrees because it's below. The key word is below. That tells you whether it's going to be negative or positive. Above, of course, tells you that we're going up, so that is positive. When you write a positive number, it's not necessary to put the plus sign in front of it because it's understood. It's accepted that if there's no sign in front of it, that it's positive. So 5,286 feet. All right. Pretty simple stuff. You'll have to do a few of those on your homework. Nothing too earth-shattering there. We're going to graph some coordinates on a number line. A coordinate is a number that corresponds to a point on the number line. We've already done some graphing this year, so this isn't too big of a deal. Again, the one thing to remember is that when you're working with negative numbers, that you have to read from right to left instead of from left to right. That changes things around a little bit. Can make it a little bit tricky. So I'm going to give you some examples, and on the next screen I'm going to show you a couple of examples, and then I'm going to show you the way that I want to see number lines done in my class. Whenever you have to make your own number line to graph a coordinate, this is what I want to see, okay? So I'm going to graph -5 on a number line for you, and this is the way I want you to do it. I want your line, arrows at both ends, the number that you're going to graph in the center, so -5 right here, and then I want one number on each side of that to show me that you understand where it falls in relation to the numbers around it. So what number goes to the right of -5?
Negative 4.
-4. Remember, with negatives you have to think from right to left, and then over here is
Negative 6.
-6. So when you do a positive number, it's numbered from left to right. When you do negative numbers, they're numbered from right to left. Okay? So this is the way I want to see you draw number lines in my class. Don't give me some 4-foot long number line that has 87 numbers on it just so you can put a -5 on there. I don't want that. All I want to see is that you understand where -5 falls in relation to the numbers around it. Okay? Do the other 3 on your whiteboards and let me see them. Alright, just check yours as I fill these in, check yours against mine if you haven't done already. Alright, any questions on those? Everybody get the negative one done correctly? Alright, good job. We also will be comparing integers, and when we make comparisons with numbers, there's two signs that we use.
Greater than
Less than and greater than, alright? And we're gonna use those signs to compare these integers. What you need to think about when comparing integers is where they fall on the number line in relation to one another. Here we have a 3, and here we have a -7. Since the 3 is further to the right, that means what? It's greater, because it's to the right of the -7. So 3 is greater than -7. And since -7 falls to the left, what does that mean?
It's less than.
-7 is less than 3. On your homework today, it'll say to write two inequalities for each of the values listed. So you'll have to write it both ways. All right, change colors since -6 is here and 4 is here. Since 4 is to the right, it is greater than -6. And since -6 is to the left, it is less than 4. Okay? Not too earth-shattering there with that stuff, is it? You guys okay? Good to go? Let's look at our next concept is absolute value. Absolute value is simply a measurement of distance. Now think about all of the times that you've heard distance measured, whether you're talking about miles between towns or the size of your bedroom or the length of a football field or whatever it is. Have you ever heard distance measured in a negative number? It's not the way we measure distance. Distance is always measured in a positive number. Now, we can talk about going a negative direction, because if you're on the football field and you lose 7 yards, that's a bad deal, right? Okay, so it might look like you went -7 yards, but you didn't really go -7 yards, you went 7 yards in the negative direction. Does that make sense? And so what we're talking about with absolute value is the distance that a number is from 0. 0 is always our starting point, and all we're talking about is how far away is that number from 0. It might be some number of units away in the negative direction, or it might be some number of units away in the positive direction, but it's always going to be a positive measurement. So when you think about the number 5, how many units away from 0 is it?
5.
It's 5 units away. So we measure a 5 units of distance. But how far away is -5? It's also 5 units away. It's just 5 units away in the opposite direction. It's in the negative direction. So when we write absolute value, we always write it with these straight line brackets. So the absolute value of 5, how far away is 5 from 0? 5 units. Absolute value of -5, how far away is it from 0? 5 units. Absolute value, when it's expressed like this, is always going to give you a positive number. Okay? That doesn't mean that the answer to every problem involving absolute value is always positive. We're going to look at some exceptions to that in a minute. But if all you have is an absolute value brackets and a number inside of them, then the answer will always be positive. Does that make sense? So let me show you a few examples. All I want to see are your answers on these. You can write down the problems if you want, but show me an equal sign and show me your answer written as a whole number. All right? So show me these. Good, Luke. Good, Riley. Good. All right, I think everybody's got the hang of it. These would all be positive numbers, 345, 12, 4, and 83. I'll be asking you that question from time to time throughout this chapter, what is absolute value? And your answer will be absolute value is the distance from zero, the measure of the distance from zero, okay? The measure of a number from zero. So it's important for you to understand that concept. Let's look at a couple more examples. Compare the following expressions using greater than, less than, or equal. Go ahead and write it both ways. Give me two inequalities for each one. Okay, you've got to do the absolute value. These absolute value brackets make a difference. The absolute value of 4 is 4, and the absolute value of -7 is 7. So the appropriate 4 is less than 7, and 7 is greater than 4. Okay, you have to take into account the absolute value bracket. Some of you just kind of ignored those, like they weren't even there. Okay, so absolute value of 380 is 380, and the absolute value of -381 is positive 381. All we're asking here is which one is further away from 0? Which one is further away from 0 of these two numbers? 380, it's further away. So 381 is greater than, it's a greater distance away than 380. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
You have to do the absolute value before you do the inequality, before you make your sign. All right, the other thing that we'll do involving absolute value is do some expressions. And here, before you start, absolute value brackets are treated like parentheses. They come before any operations that are outside of the brackets. Okay? So the plus sign is outside of the brackets, outside of the parentheses here. So absolute value of 9 is plus the absolute value of -9. That's plus 9. So 18. Absolute value of 13 minus the absolute value of -2. Minus 2 is 11. And then the absolute value of x minus 7 if x is equal to -13. So x is -13 minus 7. Absolute value of -13 is 13 minus 7 is 6. Okay? All right. Before I switch to your homework slide and I hear a big cumulative groan, it's going to look like a lot of problems. And it is, but they go pretty quick. A couple people first hour even finish their assignments in class. It's 26 problems, and you'll need 2 sheets of paper to do it.